All right, the bottom left-hand corner of the map. Ladies and gentlemen, the one of 4 Titans in this group. It is the world champion himself, the 2-time from NC Sports. Wait for the zoom in from Snoopy. It's still going. The Finnish phenom, the spectacular player himself. It's Serral!
That he is. And guess what? Hey, he is Protoss Incarnate, the Chin Toss from Alpha X. It is classic.
All right, and PvZ on Hardwire. And as you mentioned, this is a long map. It doesn't necessarily look that big. The base count is nothing crazy. You do get up, I believe, in the later game towards 8 bases on each side of the map, which is on the larger end. I think it's actually almost matching Glittering Ashes with 9. And it's kind of deceptive in that way, because you look at this map and you're like, oh, that's a pretty straight up rush distance. You know, it's not that big, but just with how the map is laid out, with how many ramps you have, with the actual base layouts, it does end up being quite a large map that has a lot of space for you to kind of take advantage of. And that means that attacking isn't actually the easiest thing to do early on.
Yeah, no, it really isn't, which means that, well, Classic is one of those players that we have started to see, or kept seeing, really lean in to this SkyToss idea, even as things got nerfed, even as players are saying, maybe not, maybe I don't want to do that. Well, Hardwire is a map that you can absolutely do that on. At least the idea of it is there. But you know, Titan, I'm even more excited by this potential of this ground toss idea that we have seen players like Hero, players like Creator really start to lean into, or even better, ground air, start to play around, play almost like a Zerg. I can't promise that's what we're going to see, but certainly these bigger maps, they do enable that a little bit.
Yeah, and I think the best example has been Hero. On maps like Glittering Ashes, he'll sometimes open, 2 Stargate Phoenix just to get a really strong air presence. The Phoenix completely neutralize the chance of there being Mutalisks. You force the Zerg to pretty much go Corruptors, or just to kind of sit back in their base, build Queens, and have to get into Hydras, which not a lot of Zergs really want to do right now. Hydra Lurker, it's not a good composition against Protoss with how prominent Disruptors are, with the fact that the air army is already there. They don't want to go for that option, so usually it's going to be the Corruptors, and then you immediately hit that massive tech switch, as you've been saying, into a ground army. And I definitely think that's one of the awesome things that's coming out of this patch, is how Protosses have been using the changes to really vary up their build orders and take advantage of the fact that now you're not really as worried about these quick queen attacks coming across the map, unless the Zerg decides to just be a little bit more innovative with it. We've seen, Dropper Lords, we've seen Nidus Worms, but you really have to commit a lot more to it as the Zerg to make it work.
That you do, but you know what? Luckily, unlike maybe some other ideas, Serral's not exactly afraid of commitment. And certainly not afraid of committing to really, a 76% win rate in this matchup. So as much as we talk about, look, I'm so excited about Classic, he's really good. We cannot forget the fact that Serral is the all-time leader, the best possible player in the world, historically and currently, in this CVP matchup. But we haven't seen a lot of his ideas on how to play post-match. Yeah, sure, we saw him qualify 2-0 over MaxPax, which is not all that much of a surprise, even as MaxPax has continued to grow and improve and look better. Well, Serral has still owned him, and he's owned him. He's knocked him out of too many dream hacks over the last year to make me really happy. So I'm really curious to see how you say, look, does he commit? He's probably not going to queen walk, let's be real. But where does he commit? How does he respond to this new meta that we've started to see grow up? Well, we haven't seen much of it yet, Titan. So again, storyline to follow. I'm excited to see what happens here. Is now Oracle, Vordray looking to dive on in. There are 3 queens, so realistically it's not going to get much, but maybe it provides a little bit of room. No, 4 queens. They say no. Oracle takes damage. And Classic, yeah, sure, he's got some of the best Oracle control in the business, but not good enough.
Yeah, 4 queens turns out it's a pretty good anti-air force. The needles do a lot of damage here. At 7 HP left on that Oracle means that it really should be relegated now just to scouting duty. With that little HP, the shields can be knocked down quite quickly. You're just going to find use in the Revelations and keeping track of where the Zerg army is, and also using it for defense, as we already see that Classic here just 2 units out of the Stargate, is immediately transitioning into gateways, a robotics facility, going to be getting into Charge Lot, Storm, and potentially, and most probably, Archons and Immortals. So a really old school kind of setup here for Classic, where you're just getting really the ground pound toss army that just does not die.
Yeah, you know what? Sometimes you need new stools. Sometimes you need old stools. Sometimes maybe you hope that your old stool is not lacking a leg and not super rickety, so you can sit on it appropriately. And hopefully that's what's going to be the stool that Classy's got. You know, one well-worn, one that he can lean on, one that is not going to collapse under the weight of his prodigious skill. But yeah, Charge Lot Archon will be the name of the game. Probably Storm eventually. And this has kind of been... I'm not even going to say the standard in PvZ right now because there is no standard. We're still too close to the patch. But it's one that has been working out rather well because, oh, Zerglings, look at that. They're going to try to jump on top of a High Templar. And they're zoning about they can't make an Archon, but there we go. They're going to be okay. You're not going to lose that gas expenditure. And hey, mid-game Archon drops. That's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot different from the usual transitions we've been seeing. I mean, I think the most common ones have been... usually going into either mass charge lot on the ground or into that +1 blink stalker timing off of an oracle opening. But this is definitely a bit of a switch up where it's just going to be Archon drops going across the map. Classic is powering up onto a 4th base, has the Immortals now in production going up to a double robotics facility, and it's slower. It's definitely not going to be applying as much pressure across the map, but I think it's reasonable considering the fact that you're playing against the best defensive Zerg that there has ever been in StarCraft 2. And look at that. Swarm hosts are going to be popping out for Serral.
Oh, man, we started to see this a little bit. Oh, be careful, Warp Prism. Okay, it's going to be okay. We started to see this, what was it? DRG, I think, in the GSL? We saw someone in the GSL start to use this with tremendous ability. Swarm host started to run away in part because, hey, look, if you're going to get 8-10 voids, it's not going to do all that much. But look at this. This is not your, okay, I'm going to harass with voids. Maybe there's a Nidus. No, this is almost the Roach Queen Swarm Host all in, where you got three queens in a Dropper Lord. As Classic looks to take his 4th base here, and Serral says, no, you don't get to do that one here. Classic looks to take the fight right now, but he says, okay, Swarm Host, gotta back on up. Maybe I even give this base up. He's going to try not to. But Swarm Host, they say there's a juicier target here. There's a natural. There's a 3rd base. Let me knock down some sort of valuable target here, and they're going to start to find the Robos. That's a big deal. Double Robo. You want those Immortals here to deal with the Roaches, and knocking them down is going to be a problem. But now the Zealots, they're going to get on top of everything here. Queens are going to be forced on back. Actually, wait, no, okay, Void Rays are not going to get that. Queens in the high ground, and the Nexus, though, the natural, it does fall on the backside of this.
Yeah, the collapse on the army is very, very well done, though, from Classic. You see 3 Immortals were out. You had so many Archons. The Archon drops actually in the middle of the Roach army. Gets a lot of damage, and you clear up a lot of this very supply-intensive army. And now look at this. You're just juggling forward the Archons. You're continuing to try and find picks onto these units. Serral has a lot of supply. It's not very efficient as it's 3 queens in the main. Have you ever seen queen harassment? Because here we go, but look at this! Classic's just walking across the map because he says, I have 5 Archons. What do you have, a bunch of Roaches?
Well, yeah, a bunch of Roaches. They're pretty good here. It's not really going to work out for him all that much because, yes, he has 5 Archons, but 2 of them are going to sit in the Warp Prism at any given time. The Immortals, they're doing well, but you can't fight the Locusts. You need the Archons to kill them off, as we're going to see a couple Swarm Hosts go down, I think. Void Ray falling here as well. Serral, his supply is not insane for a Swarm Host Roach player, but also Classic sitting at about 100 supply. He's lost his natural, and yeah, sure, he's got a 4th base, but he's lost so much of the tech in this army. He's got 3 Immortals, and that really is just about it. Sure, yeah, Shield Battery Overcharge is great. Maybe it's going to be enough to pull him back here, but he has taken significant losses. It's not the easy game that Classic would like it to be.
Yeah, I think committing across the map, it felt like Classic might have had enough, but you're just committing into the Swarm Host, and as you know, a defensive unit, you really have to wait out the Swarm Host. They're not something that you can just try and force the fight into. As now we're going to look, I mean, Serral's just going to try and dive onto the natural, get some Lings in there, going to go for that. Oh, that massive Artosis pylon. And sure, the Roaches get cleaned up, but now you're going to start to look for more worker harasses. These queens, turns out, are really annoying to deal with because they can transfuse.
You asked me when I've seen Queen harass, and I think maybe once before, but I mean, that doesn't really count here. Serral is making it look like a key component of this style. It's like, yeah, okay, I walk across the map. I've got 3 queens that forces the Void Ray back. It's fine. And now that I don't care about the Void, yeah, we're going to harass every mineral line. Classic down to 50 workers. And you know, Titan, I got to say, double Robo Immortal is powerful. Double Robo Immortal is strong. But if you're saying, where am I going to spend my gas, specifically against the Swarm Host composition, I think I would have preferred to see Storm much quicker, because then you just swarm down the Locust, or you storm down the Locust. They're not really able to do what they would like, and then you just have this dead supply. Well, they're still finding value right now as they jump on into the main base. We got a fight kicking off here at the front. That is so many Immortals, though. Firing strong, that fire base with +2, causing so many problems, but on the backside, 10 workers have gone down. Creep is everywhere. Serral is just dominating with the queens, but again, Classic wants to run across. I don't know how good running across the map when you're down literally half the supply is really going to work out for the man, though.
I mean, Classic is just losing so much. This queen harasses. It's actually crazy how much value Serral's got. He's constantly moving in between bases. Finally, a Phoenix has come out to try and knock down the Overlord, but the queens are just going to replant themselves, get transfuses down. It's just so annoying to deal with. And at the front, sure, Classic has a super strong army, but he doesn't have any Archons left. I mean, the lanes can get on top of the Immortals, and once the Immortals are gone, then the Roaches will come through. GG's going to be called. Serral, such a cool game 1. And I think Classic had a lot of good ideas in that last game. I think the unit composition was actually the right one to be working with. You know, the Charge Lot Immortal Archon against straight Roaches and even against Swarm Hosts. It works, but as he said, you lose a lot of units. You don't get that Storm to help zone out the army. Suddenly, you're really just relying on the brute force of your units. And when you start to lose trades in that scenario, it's really hard to come back from it.
That it is, but we're gonna have to see what happens here. This is a very different map. Hardwire, yeah, sure, it's given us great games and really all matchups, but it's almost standard. It's linear. You have a relatively normal base setup. Yeah, the 4th or the exposed 4th is a little bit weird, but in general, hey, it's somewhat standard. Blackburn is 2 maps in 1, Titan. You have the small one, the map where you have a really short rush distance and it's through the slow zones and etc, etc. But as the map goes late, suddenly it's something very different. You knock the rocks down, it plays much more like a golden wall, like one of the biggest maps in the pool. One of the reasons why I think it at least I enjoy it. I know other casters, Steadfast is going to say it's his least favorite map, but no. Blackburn is maybe my favorite, but also maybe I'm biased. Serral versus Mario on this map from last season was probably one of the best maps ever played.
Yeah, I think Blackburn is one of those maps where the games can be really one-sided, or they'll be the best thing you've ever seen. It really is. You know, it's the fruit basket. You get everything that you could ever want from this map, even if it's something that you didn't want. But we do have Classic going once again into the Stargate opening, and there's really no surprises here. I think the Stargate opening is still just solid in general. The fact that you can get out early Oracles, get out Phoenix or Void Rays to help clear up Overlords, it's still just the best opening in order to find value and in order to gain early map control so that you can do whatever transition you want. And of course, Classic is, I think, the most comfortable with the Stargate opening as well. Ooh.
That it is, but well, behind this, we talked about, okay, look, game 1, we saw Classic get a Void Ray defensively. He got Oracles. He didn't really get much done with the Oracles, and that is from a man who has had classically some of the best Oracle control. But, classically. We've started to see, again, it's going to be interesting to see where he goes from this, because we've seen the thought leaders in Korea really start to lean into this almost tech switching style. Right, you do go ground, you go air, or you go air, you go ground, you go back air again, you add a second Stargate, maybe you go 2 Stargate Phoenix. It remains to be seen, but for now, hey, you know what? This is the opening that we've been pretty happy with, pretty familiar with. And Serral, yeah, is gonna get supply blocked. How dare you, Serral? You're the best player in the world, and you get supply blocked for half a second when your scouting Overlord goes down? For shame.
Yeah, I mean, the hatchery just wasn't timed out. And what can I say? That's a bit of a mistake here from Serral, but he does get that under order, has another Overlord out. The Void Ray is just going to look to try and clear up as much vision as possible, and Serral is being pretty smart and conservative with his actual Overlords. We'll start on Pneumaticized Carapace, because you do see that Overlord at the top of the map that will eventually go and run through the main. So that time is actually really nice here for Serral. It will line up, you get a full scout of the tech, and you'll just see mostly the same thing as last game, Planet Council and Forge, but also here is the Void Ray Oracle dive. Void Ray to tank up Spore Crawler. You get 2 drones. Classic's just going to pull out before he takes too much more damage, and he's going to be pretty happy with that as a start.
Yeah, you know what? Infinitely more damage, Mr. TitanOnFire. He got 2. He did not get 0, and well, that means that Classic wins this game. Right? It's so much more. Yeah, 2 over 0, infinite. So infinite better shot to win the game. There we go. But look at this. It's different. It's going to be +1 blink behind here. And we've started to see this show a little bit more power. I don't know how many sentries Classic has right now. That's kind of the moment he starts warping in sentries. And of course, how many he gets is going to tell us just how aggressive he wants to be with this. But make no mistake about it. +1 blink is a timing. It's not just a mid game. I'm going to sit back and defend. No, you want to get damage to your opponent. And if Serral if Serral doesn't read this right, if Serral maybe overcommits to too many roaches, not enough lings, this can be incredibly powerful. Crater has shown us that.
Yeah, this is, I think it's a build order that I've been enjoying how it has mixed its way back into the meta as, it's Sword. Serral is on top of things though, only loses a single drone for a little while. It will be back very, very shortly to join his brethren. But the +1 blink timing for a while, you know, about it, I think like a year ago maybe, is when we were seeing it a lot, and then it kind of faded out of popularity as Stargate units got stronger, as Zergs realized that really that way you deal with it is you have a base of roaches, but then you really use your Zerglings and Banelings to get the surrounds on the Stalkers, and they can't kite as well against the extremely fast tier 1 Zerg units. But that's of course with scouting information. Serral went in with his Overlord, didn't actually see that much to cue him into the fact that this is going to be a timing attack. There's 6 gateways on the way, the +1 is almost done, the blink is almost done. That's 6 sentries that are out for Classic.
Well, you know, if Serral didn't know something was up, he does know now. That is a lot of sentries. You don't get that many if you're going for, say, a charge lot style. You get a couple, sure, but your gas is better spent on Archons. You don't get that many if you're going Sky Toss, certainly. So that is the scout in and of itself. Couple Zerglings now, they find their way on into the gold base. They're going to knock down a couple workers, but hey, sentries, they don't do a lot of damage with their tickle beams, but it will be enough to force these 6-8 lings off the scent. But there we go. Warp Prism on the way. Oracle looking to find a little bit more, and it's going to get nothing, actually. There we go. Queen's got range, so it's going to be fine. But
yeah, it's a bit annoying. It does manage to get rid of some of that mining time from those drones. They were transferred immediately over to the gold base, which is really well done by Serral, just to make sure they lose as little mining time as possible. But we're going to see the push out here from Classic. It's a little bit later than you would like. Normally you want this across the map at 7 minutes. It's just a little bit late. It was delayed by the Zergling Harass. Force Fields only picks off a single roach. So far not getting the best value, but it's a lot of +1 blink stalkers. The upgrades aren't here for Serral just yet. Does finally complete his own +1 melee. He's going to look for the fight, but again, you have a lot of sentries. These force fields, you can section off so much of the army, and then once you do that, it's so hard for Serral to commit in.
yeah, these force fields, though, from Classic, they've not been really good yet. Yeah, he force fielded in the mineral line. He got 3 workers. Most of them escaped. His force fields have not been all that great, but those ones are going to be a little bit better here. Zealot's running on forward to deal with the Banes, which is not what you want. Couple Banes, they're going to get connections on the on the sentries as well. Stark's playing on forward, but more Banes looking to go on in. Force field's actually serving as a nice wall here as we got a concave coming on in from Classic, but now Bailey's speed is done. These Zealots, you warp them into their doom here, buddy. That's not what you want, but the concave, it's still rather nice. If Classic can blink for his life, maybe that's going to be enough here, but right now we're going to see the bios go down. Force fields, they're not there. Warp Prism will stay alive, but this push has been handled mightily by the Finnish Zerg. It's not going to work out here. Classic forced back with his tail between his legs, and I'm going to say it, I don't think he got enough here.
No, I mean, it was close. There was a moment there where the Queens are off creep. Maybe you could start to turn the fight, but Classic blinks forward with a section of those Stalkers, doesn't end up losing them. Oh, Warp Prism's going to go down. And that just hurts Classic. didn't need to lose that. Now, Serral just knows, hey, there's not much at home. You just have the units that you were able to warp in, so I can come across the map. He's going to use Ravagers to harass this mineral line. There's a single cannon. That's not going to last for very long. The Void Ray, though, will be able to at least push these Ravagers back. But yeah, it wasn't enough damage. Classic really commits hard across the map. Sure, he has +2 ground weapons now, but he's having to catch up in his army. He's not really going to be able to make another push until, I mean, a decent bit later in this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 4-base Classic. He does have a gold base. He's going to get his 5th base on the way, but more than anything, more than supply, more than having to rebuild an army, I'm worried about the complexity. It really is just Charge Lot Blink Stalker, which that is not a late game army. That is an army that dies pretty significantly to a bunch of Banelings, but here, I like this one a little bit more. Classic saying, yeah, I can't take the straight up fight. Probably not. Let me run in the main base where there are 15 Banes waiting for me. That's not going to work out. You like the idea, but Serral also likes the idea, and he is well prepared for it. He knows how this game works.
Yeah,
he's won
Serral
too
scout.
many ZVPs in his time.
Serral knows how to scout, and he's really good at doing it. Perhaps, I think, the best player at playing with vision and knowing exactly when he needs to, or just where he needs to keep vision control. As that Void Ray is going to get low, won't go down just yet. He's going to be refocused onto the Ravagers. And Serral trying to knock it down, but that's not quite going to work out. And Classic has managed to catch up and supply very, very nicely. Back up to about 170, even pretty much with Serral, who's now going to be looking for that Spire. And as I said, this is, I mean, it's Charge Lot Stalker. We've seen it work when you make games scrappy, when you're constantly doing run-bys, when you're constantly looking for warp-ins in the main. But Classic really hasn't been able to set up a push to allow him to do that. Because when run-bys really work, when harassment really works with the Warp Prism in the main is when either the Zerg is across the map or you're pushing the Zerg at one of their new bases. Because then their attention is elsewhere. Uh-oh, Classic is a little bit out of position here.
You know, that was a really nice single force field, though, but Baneling's on into the 4th base. We talk about, hey, at least he's got the gold. Yeah, he doesn't have gold anymore. Technically, it's still there, but there are no workers in it. But yeah, Classic really does need to make this scrappy. It's kind of crazy. You say, yeah, his supply is really good. In fact, it's up in army supply right now. But I can't believe I'm saying this in a game when I'm talking about the Protoss. I want to see the army value. Serral's army, I'm going to posit, is going to be a more expensive one, despite everything else, because Classic, again, this is just gateway units. It's not all that really impressive, even if the supplies are good. But I do like what I'm seeing now. At the very least, we are starting to see some disruptors, probably a Robobay going headed on in. Okay, Banelings on into the 3rd base. Classic, you're going to respawn, not in time. 8 workers go down. Force field is going to save the rest. No, it's not. 25 workers go down. 5th base under fire as well. Serral saying enough of this nonsense. No, you don't get an economy anymore.
Oh, and the force field, it looked like it might be a good idea, and then accidentally traps all of the workers in for those Banelings to make their connections. Here we go. Serral just going to roll on through, and Classic's army supply is dropping. He's lost so many workers already. He needs to win this fight, but even then, will he be able to win the game? It doesn't look like it, and the Stalkers are getting cleaned up. They have nowhere else to blink. They have nowhere else to run. The Roaches and Ravagers are going to clean them up. And, I mean, even if Serral doesn't win the game here, it's going to be really hard for Classic to really make anything else work.
And the single disruptor, yes, it's good, but it is about 5 minutes too late in this game to really be the savior that Classic needs it to be. As more and more Zerglings, they got +2. They eat these Stalkers for breakfast, for lunch, maybe even for dinner. They're just not doing what they need. As Zerglings again, coming on in from every side. Yeah, the Void Ray is putting in work, but unfortunately, you know, it's just about to get laid off here. There's no business to make it work here. Serral going from strength to strength. He's 2-0.